Today, we're going to be looking at a clip from the Nick Fuckface show because as of late, Nick Fuckface has been sending his goons over to Turning Point USA events to give Charlie Kirk a hard time. And it appears we're having a bit of an intellectual civil war on the so called American right because Nick Fuckface is a little upset that Charlie Kirk won't give him the time of day. And also, let me make this clear for people who are unfamiliar with me. I am not a fan of Charlie Kirk or Turning Point USA. I have many videos of me criticizing Charlie Kirk and my issues with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. But Nick Fuckface over here, his issue with Charlie Kirk is that he's not religious enough. He's not right-wing enough. But most importantly, he's not giving white scumbags like this guy the time of day. So let's see what Nick Fuckface has to say.
What helps America? Charlie Kirk said that's a false choice. That's a false question. And then he said, I love Israel. I will never apologize for supporting Israel. I support Israel 100%. And he said that anybody who questions this position has hatred for Israel. Then he pivoted and said, well, I wonder why I've been facing so much flack for this in the past week or so. I wonder why people hate Israel so much. Why am I getting all these questions?
So this whole squabble about Israel, I think, is a little dishonest. So a common question that comes up from Nick's goons at these TPUSA culture war events is about American foreign policy toward Israel. Now, it does not help that Charlie Kirk does not give good enough answers. One question in particular was from this guy who was making a fuss, saying that why is it okay for the United States government to send billions of dollars to Israel? Additionally, Charlie Kirk, he says that socialized medicine is immoral. So this guy says, why, Israel has socialized medicine, yet the United States sends billions of dollars to Israel, which you're in favor of, Charlie Kirk. Why is it okay to send billions of dollars to this country that has socialized medicine when we could keep that money here and perhaps pay for white Americans' health care? I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, he did specify white Americans.
My question, therefore, why would white Americans send their taxpayer dollars to fund Israel's health care while our mothers fight cancer?
Now, the correct answer to this is that the United States government should not be giving Americans' tax dollars to any country, including Israel. It's not America's job. It's not the government's job to send Americans' hard-earned money to other countries. Now, if we want to be friends with Israel, that's fine. If we want to trade with Israel, that's good too. If we want to treat Israel as an ally, which I think we should, to fight common enemies, that's fine. And hey, if you as an American, if you want to send money and aid to Israel, that's fine. But you notice Nick and his goons, they seem to have this obsession over foreign policy toward Israel. They don't make an issue about, the United States giving billions of dollars to the United Nations. They don't seem to be asking Charlie questions about other types of foreign aid, other countries that receive foreign aid. No, they seem to be hyper-focused on American foreign policy and help to Israel. And also ignore the fact that Nick has a history of questioning the Holocaust to a certain extent. And he once took issue with Matt Walsh, making a big fuss over the fact that Matt Walsh, conservative commentator Matt Walsh, taking issue with the fact that he works for Jews. And as you'll see in this clip, Nick has an obsession over European identity. But no, forget about all of that. They're just questioning America's foreign policy with Israel. Yeah, whatever you say, Ilhan Omar.
So you got, as I said, it's laid out very clearly. It's laid out completely accurately, from immigration to the question about gay marriage and anal sex to the question about Israel, what this person stands for. He is not loyal to the American nation. He is loyal to Israel and to his donors. Probably most or a lot of his donors happen to be Jewish Zionists. He is loyal to them. He is loyal to that country. In terms of homosexuality, that man is not a Christian. You cannot be a Christian and get in front of millions of young people and say that this lifestyle is okay, we accept it, we tolerate it, we're promoting it, we're putting those people as our ambassadors. Isn't that interesting? Ashley St. Clair could not be an ambassador, a brand ambassador for Turning Point USA because she was in a picture with me.
So you hear this. It's not so much that Charlie Kirk approves of homosexuals. He wants homosexuals in the conservative movement, so much so that he has homosexuals on stage with him at Turning Point USA events. This is something that Nick is honestly upset about.
Because I say things like, I don't care for race mixing. Because I say things like...
Oh, yeah, that's why Nick, that's why people don't like Nick Fuckface, because it's because of his opinion over race mixing and interracial dating.
I think America should be conserved in all aspects. But Rob Smith and Ricky Rebel and all these other filthy degenerates, they get to be ambassadors for the brand. They think that's acceptable. They promote that. What did Jesus Christ say about leading his young ones astray? Does anybody remember that verse? When he said, anybody who leads my young ones into sin. What did he say? He said they would be better off if there was a millstone attached around their neck and they were thrown into the sea. Charlie.
So right here, we have Nick quoting the Bible to virtue signal his Christianity, to claim that he's more devoted to Christ and the teachings in the Bible more than Charlie Kirk is. And it's interesting because I made a video about the alt-right a couple years ago and how they're fundamentally anti-American. And I did a lot of research for that video. And from what I saw at the time, the alt-right was pretty secular. They did not really talk much or at all about God or religion or Jesus or the Bible. You know, just stuff about blood and soil and great replacement and European heritage and all that nonsense. And now we have Nick Fuckface bringing religion, bringing God, bringing the Bible into the alt-right. He's integrating it with his ideology, if it was not already there. And what they're saying is today's mainstream young conservatives like Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA, they're not Christian enough. Look at Charlie Kirk. He's having homosexuals on stage with him at these Turning Point USA events. Oh no, you guys. And therefore, they're not conservative enough. And I think this may partly be why Charlie Kirk wants to avoid Nick Fuckface, because Charlie Kirk made his bed with his Christian virtue signaling, and now he does not want to be outflanked by someone shitty like Saint Nick.
Charlie Kirk promoting homosexuality. So he does not stand with Christianity. He does not stand with Jesus Christ. And perhaps as important, or more importantly, in terms of immigration, he does not stand with his people. He does not stand with the traditional American nation. Charlie Kirk intimated that everybody who opposes the demographic displacement of historic European Americans as fringe racists. He said you're in favor.
And it is racist to obsess over racial demographics and great replacements and worrying about who the racial minority will be in the future and using race as the standard to decide who gets to come to America. Yeah, that is racist. Imagine if this was your standard for anything else. Hiring workers, dating, inviting people to parties, assembling a professional sports team like Major League Baseball. Imagine how much shittier Major League Baseball would be today if they only allowed white Americans and white, or let's just say Americans, but as far as international players, they only allowed white European players into the major leagues. Well, first off, Europeans don't really play baseball that much. But secondly, there's a lot of international competition. Some of the best baseball players over the last 20 to 30 years have been from Venezuela and Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic and Korea and Japan. And someone like Nick Fuckface would say, no, we can't let these people in. We got to protect American jobs. And as a result, the product would be a lot shittier. And all this nonsense about immigrants taking Americans' jobs. I know this is somewhat anecdotal, but many of my past employers were immigrants who came to non-white immigrants who came to America with nothing, busted their ass, created a business, and gave me an opportunity as a result. But even that's besides the point, because merely being born on a patch of dirt doesn't mean that your neighbors owe you a job or owe you an opportunity. But yes, sorry, your views on race, your views on immigration, your standards are very racist. Charlie Kirk is just telling the truth.
You're in favor of an ethno-state if you oppose that. You know, and he did. At the end of it, they brought up even me. They brought up me at Politicon. They brought up me in the free speech issue. They brought up, Patrick Casey brought me up in reference to Ashley St. Clair. And he played dumb. He pretended not to know. He said, oh, that troll who supports white ethno-nationalism, well, I don't know, who I didn't kick out of my event, that Politicon kicked out of my event. You know, so to wrap it all up, the guy's just totally dishonest on that. But never forget, we're having fun. We're excited. And I don't even mean to say but. We're having a lot of fun, and it's exciting because we are fighting for all of these things. We are fighting for Jesus Christ. We are fighting for our people. We are fighting for...
So right here, Nick claims that he is the one fighting for Jesus Christ and Christian values, along with my American nation. Imagine if America were to become like this guy's wet dream utopia. Nothing but a bunch of white people talking about church, going to church, and talking about Jesus all day. At best, it's boring and dull, but at worst, and more likely, we're getting religious inquisitions and mass deportations and concentration camps. Gee, can't wait for this guy's utopia.
Fighting for the American nation, and Charlie Kirk is opposing us. Charlie Kirk says that everybody who does that, patriots, Christians, proud Europeans...
See, his issue with Charlie Kirk... Now, Charlie Kirk is a religious guy. I know he doesn't make it part of TPUSA's platform, and he tries to be secular, but he talks a lot about how the Bible should be taught in school, should be brought back into public schools, and talks about how amazing the Bible is and how amazing Jesus was and how amazing Christianity is. Now, at one of his events when he was getting questions from one of Nick's goons, he did say that America is not a theocracy. Good job, Charlie. Glad you said that. But someone like Nick is eventually going to push back. Maybe one day we'll say, well, why not have a theocracy? You think Christian values are so great and wonderful. You think religion is so great and wonderful. Why not have a theocracy? Why not have some more theocratic elements within United States law? You know, if the Bible and the New Testament are so wonderful, why not base American law on their principles? And this is what happens when you try to make religion, when Charlie Kirk says that rights come from God and that religion is so amazing. Okay, well, why not base the American law system on religion?
Europeans, people proud of their heritage, they are fringe racists, they're homophobes, they're anti-Semites, they're trolls, ethno-nationalists, and they have no place in the conservative movement. So never forget, if you're asking, oh, what did Charlie Kirk do to deserve this? Why are we targeting Charlie Kirk?
I'm not sure if Charlie Kirk deserves the harassment he's getting, but I mean, he is somewhat deserving of this. Again, because he has mixed premises, because of his religious virtue signaling. When you make a big deal about religion, the more extreme religionists will eventually come and push you around and say, you're not being religious enough. Because he talks about how great God and the Bible are, and now the Christians are saying he's not Christian enough. What a surprise.
I saw a lot of boomer clowns have been saying, why does Nick not attack the left? Why is he not attacking Charlie Kirk? Charlie Kirk acts as a gatekeeper as I said, friends with President Trump. He's got one of the biggest infrastructures, national youth organizations in the country in Turning Point USA. And his message to America is this: if you're on board with all the things I outlined, you're not welcome. You don't get a seat at the table. You're not what conservatism is about. Instead,
This just sounds like whining. Oh, why won't Charlie Kirk? He's a gatekeeper. Why won't he let me into his event? Look, again, I've done many videos on Charlie Kirk and my issues with him, but do I care about joining his goofy organization? Well, maybe I shouldn't say that. I know some. I've talked to some good people who work in TPUSA, so maybe TPUSA does have potential. But if you hate Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk so much, here's a thought: why don't you start your own fucking organization? You know, it's kind of like how I feel about the frauds at the Atlas Society who do a shitty job of promoting objectivism and Ayn Rand. Now, I don't go around whining and crying about how Jennifer Grossman won't give me a high chair at the table so I can correct them. I just point and laugh at them whenever it's necessary, and then I move on with my life. I go and do my own thing. But, oh, TPUSA won't give me a seat at the table. They probably wouldn't give me a seat at the table either. Who gives a shit? I mean, this guy boasts about how the young and the Zoomers and the cool kids are on his side and how his movement is growing and more appealing and more fun. Well, if that's the case, then why don't you start your own thing? Although the last thing I want to do is give a shit stain like this any ideas.
Instead, it's about, all these things. It's about Rob Smith and Ricky Rebel and Lady MAGA. And it's about mass immigration from the third world. And it's about supporting greatest ally. It's about taking trips to Israel and eating breakfast and, whatever Benny Johnson is doing over there, right? So, of course, before we can take on the left, who is admittedly probably is more opposed to our view in some ways,
I don't know. I would say that Nick Fuckface probably agrees with the left more than he does the so-called right. As we just saw, he hates Israel. And as you'll see, he also hates big corporations, and he wants bigger government in a lot of ways. And he's a lot like the left. He's very obsessed over race and differences between the races. Although I guess Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA do play identity politics, so I guess we just live in a world where everyone is obsessed over race to a certain extent. Everyone's a moron, apparently. Good job, everyone.
We first have to clean house in the right. We first have to fight for a seat at the table in our own movement. Because who's fighting the left right now? People that are part of the same controlled dialectic that's existed for 25 years. It is not an important debate between Kyle Kulinski and Charlie Kirk about whether we should have a high corporate tax rate or a low corporate tax rate. Whether we should have the current healthcare system, which is, by the way, half government controlled, or whether we should have a healthcare system that's fully government controlled, that Kyle Kulinski argues for. Charlie Kirk says, no Medicare for all. Newsflash, how much of the healthcare spending in the country is government? It's probably more than half at this point, like dramatically.
Wow, his analysis of healthcare in America is actually not too far off, but I guess a broken clock is right twice a day. But notice what he's saying here. He's saying, let's stop arguing over the details about tax rate should be. He wants to get to more fundamental issues, like what the right wing should, what principles should the right wing embrace? What ideology should the right wing run on?
Don't have that in front of me, but understand. Before we take on the left, before we take on socialism and all the things that they're peddling, first we must fight at the minimum for a seat at the table. We have to fight just to get in these events, to watch these events, to attend them, to look at them, right? As I experienced at Politicon, let alone to participate in them, let alone to have the freedom to rise up and associate people without them getting fired from their jobs for being in the wrong picture, right? Before we can take on the left. But I say, you know what? That's not even good enough anymore. I don't want a seat at the table. We want the whole table. We want the whole house. It's no longer acceptable. And I'm putting...
See, he wants to take over the conservative movement and the right-wing movement.
People on notice tonight. They did not listen to us before. They did not listen to me when I was smaller, when I was on RSBN. They did not listen to you. They did not listen to James Alsup. Jared Taylor, whoever else, Faith Golden.
Jared Taylor, the white nationalist intellectual, Jared Taylor. That's someone that Nick thinks everyone ought to listen to. And then he tries to pretend like he's not a white nationalist scumbag by mocking people who accurately call him.
Faith Goldie in the movement. Maybe they're listening now after what they saw tonight. This will not end. What we saw tonight at Charlie Kirk, it was epic, it was exciting. It's the beginning. This will not end. Every single person, I don't care who it is, Crowder, Shapiro, you name it. The Dan Crenshaw is about to speak at ASU next week. Charlie Kirk, this insurgency will not end until we take over the conservative movement. It should be intolerable, unacceptable that people that are still in favor of mass immigration should be allowed to define the right-wing movement. We're not playing anymore. It's over. We elected Donald Trump in 2016 as a rebuke of what Charlie Kirk represents. The nominee was Donald Trump, who said, we're going to deport every single illegal immigrant in the country. Donald Trump, who said, we need less legal immigrants in the country, said that.
See, yeah, what wants less legal immigration? So it's not just about legal immigration. A lot of people on the right say, oh, we don't mind immigrants. We just we just have an issue with illegal immigration. But as you see, the people like this, they want immigration cut across the board.
That in 2015. He said, what about our dreams? Donald Trump, who said, maybe Muslims shouldn't be in the country. And on and on. He's obviously not a perfect representation, but that was a clear rebuke of Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, who are far more in line with Charlie Kirk. So it's no longer acceptable. We have the mandate of the people. We have the will of the people. This will not end.
And now talking about will of the people. Again, this guy sounds like a leftist, does he not? This is shit that Kyle Kulinski says about the will of the people, the populist left. Or how about that Justice Democrat, Abdul El-Sayed, who ran for governor of Michigan, running campaign ads that said something like, this is the people summer. And you're hearing it right here. Nick wants to take over the conservative movement and predicate the movement on European identity and Christianity. Not freedom, not individualism, not capitalism. To the extent that conservatives pretend to care about those things, those all need to go. We need to get rid of those to make room for more God, along with my blood and soil.
What can possibly go wrong?
It will not end. It will only get worse. And what has been set in motion tonight and for the past 2 years cannot be stopped. And they have to understand that. We're infiltrating these organizations. We're winning hearts and minds because it's fun, but also because we have the truth on our side. As I said, we've got the nation, we've got our people, we've got God on our side. What does Charlie Kirk have?
I guess that's where truth comes from. It comes from the will of the people and from divine revelation.
Kirk have. He's got Rob Smith, Ricky Rebel, and the Zionist Organization of America. So,
you see, Charlie Kirk, he hangs out with too many gays and too many Jews to be a leader of the conservative movement. But Nick Fuckface over here, he's got God and he's got the people on his side. What a second-handed moron.
I was very excited by what I saw tonight. Very invigorating. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. I've never seen that kind of energy, never seen these people held accountable. And as I said, it is an insurgency. For so long, they would do these live streams, the intellectual dark web or whoever. They'd have these discussions. And it's very easy to shut us out of that. It's very easy to shut out, in 2015, 2016. It's very easy to shut out Stefan Molyneux and say, well, you believe in racial differences in IQ. We won't have you on the stream. Very easy.
See, Nick just wants to talk about racial differences, just like the left, a collectivist moron who obsesses over differences between racial groups. And yeah, we need more voices like Stefan Molyneux, who's open to the idea of a white ethno-state because he went to Poland.
To shut out Jared Taylor, after things get a little hot, or Sam Hyde.
Yeah, we need, according to Nick, we need more intelligent voices like Jared Taylor and Stefan Molyneux.
Very easy to disinvite Sam Hyde and Baked Alaska from your little party, when it's 2016.
And Baked Alaska.
16 after the election. Well, now when they're going around the country doing a Q&A and saying, oh, come on, everybody can challenge me anytime, anywhere, anybody, on anything. Well, we are going to do that. We're winning over people. And I would just say, it's an open call to Turning Point USA members. as I said last night, and this is maybe the most important thing, because it is a youth movement. What's the most incredible is what they said about who we were in the last 2 years, people that believed in the things we believe, people that opposed mass immigration, foreign aid, dual allegiances, etc. They said that we were the same old skinheads dressed up in suits, right? Isn't that what they said during 2016 and 2017? They said, get a load of the alt-right. It's the same old hatred. It's the Ku Klux Klan and the skinheads, but this time they're wearing suits and they're academics and so on. Or recently they would say that people like us are incels. We're incels, weird loners, fringe, outsiders, alienated people. That's not who I saw tonight. What I saw tonight were handsome, intelligent, articulate young men with friends, with girlfriends, in some cases with families. It's a youth movement.
Well, I'm not sure if I entirely agree that these scumbags were handsome lads. One of the guys looked like a fucking ghost.
How can we prevent America from suffering California's fate without taking into consideration blood and soil in our immigration policy?
And I'm not one to judge someone based strictly on their appearance, but none of these people looked very happy. None of these people made me think, wow, I want to be more like this guy.
The fact is that there is a group in this country that is loyal to another country, a foreign country, and controls our media, our news, our entertainment, and unfortunately our Congress and every president since JFK. Can you guess what I'm referring to?
Well, if you're going to say Israel, you're wrong.
The Jewish power structure.
You're wrong.
I'm just wrong.
Don't boo. Let's have a
Who
discussion.
Who controls the media, for instance?
People.
People.
Individuals.
People. Jewish people.
So,
Not to mention, I'm sure you could find attractive people and ugly people in every political movement. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her politics are garbage. Her ideology is garbage, but hey, she's hot. Who the fuck cares?
It's a youth movement. We have the Zoomers on our side. And so my question, it's an open-ended question. Everybody who's watching this, probably maybe tonight, because we have 5,500 people watching, maybe I'd say 60% of the people watching tonight are on board with what we're about. Probably our regulars that watch America First are on board with everything that I'm...
Again, if everyone's on board with your little movement, then why don't you start your own thing instead of whining and crying that Charlie Kirk won't let you in the door?
Thing that I'm saying. My question then is to people that are not on board with this. My question is to the people that are...
Oh, well, I'm just calling Charlie Kirk a hypocrite because he claims to be for... Okay, fine. Yes, that's... I mentioned this in a tweet. Conservatives try to conflate free speech with the right to someone else's property, to someone else's services, to someone else's megaphone, as we're seeing with what's going on with PragerU. And now this is a contradiction that conservatives have to square, because they try to make free speech about the marketplace of ideas. And yeah, there should be a free market in ideas. There should be free speech. But again, they try to conflate free speech with a right to someone else's megaphone. But they also want to refuse sanction to scumbags like Nick Fuckface and Owen Benjamin and others without scrutiny. You see what happens when you hold conflicting premises?
Well, I don't like Nick, I don't like his views, but Charlie Kirk is a hypocrite. Or my question is to anybody in Turning Point USA, or any young person who is under the sway of Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, and they're wondering what this is about or where we stand for. My question is, what are you doing as a young American, in particular to young white people or young men? These are the groups that are the most vilified in the country today. I would say, what are you doing in a movement like this? Do you belong there as a young person? Do you belong there as a right-wing conservative person? Is that really who you are? Is that really what you're about? Is that really what being right-wing is about? Because
See, Nick is claiming he's the real right-winger. He's the real conservative. Again, Charlie Kirk, he's not religious and racist enough to be right-wing.
I watch these things, and obviously I'm nerding out. I'm watching these questions, the Groiper Army, the meme that we created becoming real. I'm seeing all these frogs in line, and they've got the Israel pins, the rosaries, they're watching America First on the phone, they've got the Joker paint on, and so on. So I'm watching this and loving it. But I'm also thinking to all the people in the audience, Why are you not with us? Why do you not join us? Almost a little bit more than I'm.
Because your movement is for unthinking, tribalistic morons who think that the thing that's standing between them and a career in software engineering is a relaxed immigration policy. And this does not even mention the fact that this dumbass has a large following thanks in large part to immigrants and non-whites who started businesses and engineered software that enables him to reach his viewers. What an ungrateful asshole.
More than I'm thinking about our guys. I'm thinking about everybody else, the room for growth, the potential that's there. Who wants to go to a Charlie Kirk event and hear Charlie Kirk, this unexceptional pervert, rattle off statistics about low black unemployment, low Hispanic unemployment, black business ownership rates? And the only reason he's even up there is because his father was a contractor for Donald Trump in the 1980s and 90s, right? So who would want to go to this event with their pants up tight and their underwear, right up their ass, sitting there with their arms folded and saying, these extremists are really crashing our event. Why are these extremists criticizing our closest ally? Why is everybody... Who wants to be that person? Why do you want to be that? I'm wondering why our movement isn't 10 times larger than it is already. Who could watch that event tonight and say that you would rather be up there on the stage with Charlie Kirk or in the audience defending him than somebody in line with a funny question, a meme, ready to just fling shit at the establishment? Because understand,
the establishment. Always notice that people who bitch about the establishment, like this guy and Kyle Kalinske, don't get it wrong. These people eventually want to become the establishment. They're not anti-establishment. They're just mad that they're not the establishment, that they're not the ones calling the shots and ruling us like philosopher kings. It's like Game of Thrones to these knuckleheads.
All of this affects you. At the end of the day, Charlie Kirk is pulling people in. He's drawing people into the movement by presenting himself as a no-holds-barred, anti-SJW, rock-ripped conservative. He brings you in with Second Amendment. He brings you in with abortion, things like this. And then what does he say? Then he says that, well, our real closest allies are big business. Our real closest allies are the entrepreneur. People
doesn't like big business, just like the left.
People think of the entrepreneur as John Rockefeller. Or people think of the entrepreneur as, Bill Gates in his garage and he makes a computer and he turns into the richest man ever, right? What he's really talking about is Walmart. What he's really talking about is mass, giant conglomerates and corporations that are sucking the wealth out of the country, bleeding us dry. These are the corporations
sucking wealth out of the country, just like the left with a zero-sum view of the world, and also his hatred for Walmart. The left hates Walmart. And, he was talking about the entrepreneur. Walmart was started by an entrepreneur by the name of Sam Walton, but apparently Sam Walton does not count in the eyes of Galaxy Brain Nick.
It's like Amazon that treat their workers like slaves. They're walking around.
Oh, Amazon too. Yeah, Jeff Bezos. He wasn't an entrepreneur, was he?
Walking around practically in cages.
Just like the left. Hates Amazon, hates Walmart, hates big business. And apparently being an entrepreneur doesn't count once your business becomes too big and too successful by some arbitrary standard.
In Amazon, their bathroom breaks are timed. In some companies, they're wearing identification badges that record their conversations, track how much they're walking, track their bathroom breaks, and so on. This is the future Charlie Kirk is fighting for. He is fighting for a country where you are a minority in your own land. He's fighting for a...
Well, the way I see it, I'm already a minority because the individual is the smallest minority. And you cannot be a champion of the minority if you are not a champion of the individual. Not that Nick believes in individualism. I saw another clip that Nick did where he talked about Charlie Kirk. He took issue with the fact that Charlie Kirk, rightfully so, Charlie Kirk said that America is an idea, which it is. America is an idea that individuals have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property and happiness. Now, Nick thinks that America is a people. Again, he thinks it's all about blood and soil. And in this rant, Nick went off about how he's met people in America who have been here since the Mayflower. You know, he talked about Virginia Dare, and he talked about how he's met people who have been here since the Mayflower.
And for people that have been here longer than I have, I know people that have been here since the Mayflower. I know people that have been here since Plymouth Rock and Virginia Dare, the first American.
And when he said that, I paused and thought, wait, what? That isn't possible. That was like 400 years ago. There's nobody alive today that has been alive since the Mayflower. And then it dawned on me that Nick is so unbelievably stupid that he thinks that people are merely members of their lineage, that you're not an individual with your own life and your own mind and your own desires and goals and all that stuff. No, you're just a link in a long chain of ancestry, and I presume it's one of your duties to continue that legacy. Anyway, we'll see what comes of this. We'll see what comes of this feud between Nick Fuckface and Charlie Kirk, and maybe nothing comes of it. Maybe this is all just a flash in the pan. But Nick and his goons appear to be on the warpath, trying to cash in on young American conservatives and Christians. And one of these days, Charlie Kirk may have to answer for not being as big of a Jesus boy as Nick Fuckface.